Recording in progress. We good? Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, December 19th, 2022 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the December 19th, 2022 regular City Council meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card. Your comment card must be presented to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Any comment cards received after the item has been called will not be accepted. All speakers will identify themselves with name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, you are required to complete an affidavit stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment card to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea Veerhoff.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Juliet Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Jacobus.
Here.
And Councilmember Rick Morg.
Here.
For the record, Councilmember Carol Cookley is absent. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is approval of the meeting agenda. I'd like to have a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve the meeting agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Next is general public comment. Tammy, do we have any public comment?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay, so I'll waive the public comment and I will ask the city clerk to call the next item.
Mayor, the next item is consent agenda. That first item is approval of the December 5th, 2022 regular city council meeting minutes. It's agenda item number 22379. Item B is approval of a professional services agreement with Lights Over Atlanta LLC to provide holiday lights and decor at various public facilities. Agenda item number 22380. Item C is approval of a professional services agreement with Ridgeline Realty Services LLC to provide land acquisition services for park land and green space. It's agenda item number 22381. Item D is approval of construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Oakhurst Signs and Graphics for designing, manufacturing, and installation of interior and exterior signage at Milton Fire Station 42. Agenda item number 22382. Item E is approval of a change order number 1 to the construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Vertical Earth, Inc. for Hopewell Road at Bethany Bend, Bethany Way Intersection Improvement Project. Agenda item number 22383. Item F is approval of furniture design consultant agreement between the City of Milton and Office Images, Inc. for furniture layout, procurement, and installation of furniture at Fire Station 42. It's agenda item number 22384. Mayor?
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morg and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to reports and presentations. Will the city clerk please sound the first item?
Mayor, that first item is recognition and presentation of City of Milton employee 5, 10, and 15-year anniversary pins. Mayor?
Thank you. So tonight's one of my favorite nights of the year where we get to recognize all the wonderful staff, police and fire that have been serving our community actually for a very long time. So we do 5, 10, and 15 years. And we actually have 29 tonight that has served our city for over 15 years. And that is an amazing accomplishment. I want to give a round of applause for them. Dedicated staff and police and fire here, and so it's great to honor them tonight. So we're going to do 5, 10, and 15 year. Steve will help out, and we'll hand out the pins, and we'll do a group photo for each one, 5, 10, and 15. So I guess I'll turn it over to Steve. I'll come on down.
Thank you, Mayor. So I will call out the names first of those that are here, and then I'll mention the ones that could not be here with us tonight. And as the mayor said, we will do the group pictures for the 5, 10s, and then the 15s. So first up for a 5-year pin is Jay Hadid with Public Works. Jay? Come on up, Jay. Next up is Officer Joshua Harrell with the Police Department. Joshua? And Jennifer Stevens with the Fire Department. Jennifer? And those that couldn't be with us tonight are FAO Nicholas Armenta with the Fire Department, Chief Rich Austin with the Police Department, CARES Coordinator, Derek Hoffman with the Fire Department. Those are all of our 5 years.
One first. Big spin. Y'all get me. Slide over just a little bit.
Joshua, come around this side if you would.
We're balanced.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, next up is our 10 years. First one up is Scott Harrell. Scott? Harrell. I thought he was here. So Sergeant David Little, you're going to be a little lonely up there with the mayor. Sarge? Those that couldn't be with us tonight are Detective Khalil Bouzian with the Police Department, Captain Mark Brown with the Fire Department, Battalion Chief Richard Bushman with the Fire Department, Wendy Lee with Courts, and Susan Wilmoth with Administration. And I missed Bernadette Harville, who is here. That is
The years Roman's worked for 20 years.
You're never gonna let that
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you.
Bernadette should have been in the middle.
I apologize for that, Bernadette. I know I won't hear about that for the next 10 years. And Mayor, next is our 15 years. This is the first time we're hitting our 15-year pins, correct?
We had 2 last year.
2 last year. So I will go in order of those that are here. First, Captain Charles Barstow with the Police Department. Cap. Battalion Chief Jason Baswell with the Fire Department. Matt Alstrom with Public Works. Sergeant Jim Hickerson with the Police Department. Battalion Chief Roth Hutchison with the Fire Department. Stacy Inglis with Administration. Sarah Leaders with Public Works. Sean McCarty with the Police Department. Tyler Nicholson with the Fire Department. Firefighter Chris Say with the Fire Department. Lieutenant Chad Taylor with the Police Department. Those that couldn't be with us tonight are, and I'll go through them all, Captain Clay Barnett with the Fire Department, Captain Shane Black with the Fire Department, FAO Tyson Blake with the Fire Department, Captain Jason Cantrell with the Fire Department, Gene Sitta with Community Development, Battalion Chief Daniel Elliott with the Fire Department, FAO Tim Farnwell with the Fire Department, Judge Hansford with the courts, Captain Ryan James with the Fire Department, Angie Kupajiampunga
Happy Jampanga.
with Public Works. I practiced that. Deputy Chief Matt Marietta with the Fire Department, Firefighter Augie Massioli with the Fire Department, Honor Moats with Finance, Retired Captain Don Patterson with the Fire Department, Firefighter Josh Payne with the Fire Department, Captain Mark Slyman with the Fire Department, Deputy Chief Mark Stevens with the Fire Department, and finally, Captain Russ Womack with the Fire Department.
Five, nice and bright. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you.
Well deserved.
The city of Milton was on a hiring spree 15 years ago, and we appreciate your service. Okay, will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, that next item is the community development updates. Our Community Development Director, Mr. Bob Buscemi.
Give him another minute. Good group. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I promise I'll keep it short tonight because I know we have a long agenda. But I just wanted to give you like a year-end community development update, which I think we're just going to focus mostly on like metrics, just to show where we are and how we analyze the metrics, and we really look at them. We really analyze this stuff like on a monthly basis. It's kind of nice to see it at the year end too, just to get a kind of an idea or barometer of the health of the city and how we're doing with permitting and construction. Okay, so we'll look at performance metrics. Whoop, did I lose it? Come back up. Technology. It's too cold outside. Everything's shutting down. Did it come back up on you?
Took just
No.
a minute.
He's looking for help.
Get that monitor.
When I said I promised to keep it shorter, I wasn't thinking it was be that short. But that was pretty good, right? Hey, Bob, great job.
Chris, they're breaking
Hey,
the
Bob.
Christmas
Yeah, a little
carol,
round of
Bob.
applause. Bob's done. Okay. All right, hold on. So we're doing performance metrics, developments. I'm going to show you some developments, mostly in the Deerfield area, just to give you an idea of what's going on there. and some staff highlights. Okay, so with the performance metrics, building and permitting, you can see the first one is building permits year over year. They look like they're pretty consistent and solid year over year. The certificate of occupancies have gone down a little bit. Last year we had 470 and this year is 203. Single-family dwellings is 151. Townhouses are 5 townhouse developments, not just the physical houses. 221 pools, 66 signs, fences, and almost 6,400 total building inspections. So they're up high. Okay, code enforcement. Again, year over year, 22 has increased a little bit. That's extra efforts on the code enforcement side, maintaining Milton. We've done over 1,000 code enforcement inspections and 165 written violations. But the secret here is if you go all the way down, there's only 12 actual citations issued. And so the whole idea of code enforcement is we just want to bring people back into compliance. The city is not looking really to issue any sort of, monetary penalty. So it shows you that most people, when we give them the written violation or the inspection, they come into compliance on a voluntary basis. So that's a good sign. That shows that, we don't have a lot of resistance to our implementation to code. The arborist with the tree permits, as you can see, I know we recently gave you a presentation on the tree canopy coverage, which stayed the same over 5 years, pretty much identical. But you could see the number of permits we issue are actually dropping year over year as well, which I think is a good sign. We're really working hard to maintain tree canopy in the city of Milton and work with it. There was 397 total. Just some pictures of different things we've done through the year as community outreach to educate the community better on our trees. Land and site development, we had 15 land disturbance permits, 13 grading permits, because we don't issue a separate grading permit for every building permit, so that's why that looks low. But we did have 5,400 site inspections, which is just a whole lot of site inspections, and that's why the council actually approved in our M&O initiative for 2023 to add 1 staff member there to help on that. So I appreciated that. Total acres of land developed was 434. So just to give you an idea of how much land we're actually disturbing, we had 28 minor plats and preliminary plats, and then 6 final plats. Planning and zoning, DRB applications, you can see they went down a little bit. 21 was heavier. And the same thing with the variances. So the pie chart kind of shows you what's happening with variances, and we do analyze those. I will tell council that we work so closely with all the applicants coming in to request a variance, and about 60% of them, we actually can work out solutions that no longer require them to apply for a variance. And I think most of those applicants are very happy that we spend the time to try to come up with solutions that don't require them to go through this exhaustive process to try to achieve a variance. But half of the ones that you're seeing are just to legalize existing structures that were built prior to us becoming a city and maybe had been built contrary to our code. So it really shows that we're really cutting down on the actual number of variances, which I think is good, because again, the whole idea is to keep people into compliance with the current code. And I think we're really doing a good job with that. We did have some text amendments and just 2 use permits. In economic development, Crabapple Festival, we had a lot of vendors. We already have people calling up Anita, asking if they could become a vendor for next year already. And that's kind of a nice thing, they're starting early. I think there's a lot of interest in that. It's a very nice event. It's one of our main events each year, and it really puts us on the map as far as placemaking and branding and what we do with that event. And so I think that really came out nice. We got a lot of interest in there, and Anita certainly does an outstanding job trying to put that all together each year. So that's very nice. Business grand openings, we have 27, which was strong. I think we've kept the mayor busy. Just about every day I see him in the newspaper doing another grand opening event, which is really great. That shows that we really have a lot. And we've been analyzing our economic strength with different metrics, which I'm probably not going to show you all of the detail tonight. But I will tell you from a retail perspective, we only have about 18% vacancy, which is really phenomenal. We have a very strong retail base here in the city of Milton. And the office environment is a little higher. It's around the 20%, but there's reasons for that we're working with both the state and county officials and all the brokers and developers to try to figure that out and come up with solutions to get those businesses healthier again. So I think that's really working out good. We do have a little presentation for you later on placemaking and branding to show you what we're doing. We are making big efforts on that. 110 touch points. That's just how many personal meetings she has to put this project together and different engagement opportunities. All right, Deerfield land use analysis. I just show this map because we are putting a lot of energy from a community development standpoint into the Deerfield corridor. I think everybody sees Crabapple being very successful, but the Deerfield corridor is really where we're putting our energy. In 2023, you will see a lot more emphasis on the Deerfield corridor, especially when it comes to economic development. So this map on the right really shows all the available and potential properties that can be built, where they're located, and how what they're adjacent to. So you get a better idea of large parcels, small parcels, where the concentration is in the Deerfield area. Vacant or partially used acres is around 207. That means that's what we have clean. That's green. That's never been built on before, which is a lot of property. If you look down at the very bottom, the potential commercial square footage in that corridor is about 4.5 million square feet if it was built out to max of what the code allows. So I just show that because I think from a economic standpoint, that corridor does have a great potential for development and redevelopment. And that's where we're really working on. I'm going to show you some examples of that. But I don't think it's a density issue. I think we have enough density there. The zoning works. There's a couple of little things in there, mostly with multifamily and use permits, where people are just kind of looking at it, saying, geez, we want work, live, play. And so there's different types of models. 20 years ago, we just had corporate parks and apartment complexes. Today, it's all this work, live, play, mixed use. They want this integration. And that's what companies are looking for. 20 years from now, it might be a different model. But for now, that's what they're concentrating on. So I want to show you some that we're looking at here. This one here, when I look at full potential in the development area, I just wanted to show you, we have large tracts, and I wanted to pull those up, like Stone Creek Church is a large tract. There's another 3.5 acre tract that's available right next to it that adjoins it. There's a 10-acre tract on Deerfield and Highway 9. There's the Target Kohl's Shopping Center, which is 51 acres. We have the Fry's property, which we've been talking about a little bit, and the Crescent property. We still are in contact with all of those folks, working with them. We have the Verizon complex. We have 10 acres right next to the existing hotel that we have, the only hotel. We have almost a 67-acre parcel, which was the Phillips. Phillips was in there, and that's a large commercial complex. And then we have what we just call the Webb Morris Road project, which has two five-story towers on it now. All right, so looking at some of the construction projects, of course, we have 42, which is moving along very nicely. I'll let you know that we are on time and on budget still. Hopefully I can keep that up. We're walking into some cold weather, and it's not without its issues out there, but we're working on them all, and hopefully we'll be able to keep that all in line with an April completion date, and so far we are. Okay, this is on Henderson and Highway 9, we have a new mixed-use development coming in here. This is retail on the ground floor, office above. I just show it because we do have some of these smaller land areas that people are developing. This is coming in, it's approved already for an LDP, and they just have to pay some fees and stuff to get their actual permits. But I think it's showing that there's a lot of interest even at a small scale. This one here is a 5-acre tract. They came in with a proposed dental office. They might be changing it over to some housing, but they certainly came in with that. Then right across the street, there's a parcel of land there, and they're proposing to come in with commercial along the Highway 9 corridor, and then maybe potentially some housing in the back. So that's one area that I want the council to kind of start thinking, because this is one thing that we might need to make some amendments on to allow that kind of development to occur in the future. So I'd like to just kind of throw it out there to show you some of the lots that these things would impact. On Webb Road, just to show you, we did some housing projects there with on the corner there with yeah, it's all that housing project there, and I just want to show you that we made a little pocket park there too. Let me see if I can. Does this work? Yeah. Can everybody see that cursor? Or no? Yeah. There's a little pocket park right in there, and you can kind of see that in the lower left corner. And these are nice. Every time we do a development, we're trying to create these little pocket parks. Okay, and then we have the self-storage, and then we have the assisted living on Highway 9. And then if you look at the right here, all this property here was acquired as green space for the city. So the city owns that parcel there. We also have a development that's going in right here, and that's going to be a daycare, and I'll show you that too. Hopefully that's in there. All right, this was the self-storage. This is what it came in. They requested the one on the left, and when they walked out, they ended up building the one on the right. And I show this just as a demonstration of things that come in, and people just want basic 4 walls, stucco, and we tell them it has to be Milton-esque. We really work with people, and they came back to me now that it's all built and said, Bob, we're very happy with it because we have 100% utilization of the building, and they're paying way over what we thought we would be getting per square foot for a self-storage, and it's really been a success. So I think Milton has a good track record as far as keeping the quality up and having people satisfied after they've invested money here. Okay, this one here is just Stone Creek Church. I think there's some interest from Stone Creek that's going to be coming in to look at potentially some development there. This is the Highway 9, the 10 acres. It's owned by Orkin Associates. This one shows all commercial. I think he's been trying to get maybe potentially some residential in there as well. But it was in for a concept plan, so show it to you. This was the Target Kohl's Shopping Center. We put that together. That's got a hotel. It's got a bank. It's got mixed use, vertically integrated mixed use. It's got a green. It's got a movie theater. It's got a couple of structured parking areas and some liner buildings along Highway 9. Public safety complex went up over there, and I think that was a nice addition to what we're looking at there. I'll let the council know I got notified today the city of Brookhaven has contacted me, and they said they'd like to come out and do a tour after the first of the year to see our facilities. They're looking to do theirs, and it's just another city that's coming in saying, we want to use you guys as our example of what to do and sit with us. So that's a nice thing. I like that. We've had a lot of cities come through, several from out of state. Pike's Nursery, I think everybody's aware of it. The only reason why I bring it back up again is to show you that Bethany Road next to Pike's, there is a reserve right-of-way there. So the intent is to straighten out Bethany Road on both sides. So that would leave the old Bethany Road right-of-way area as a potential future pocket park in that area as well. So you can think about that. This is the lot that's just south of Pikes. They're coming in for a car wash. They sat with us, and car washes are usually very hard to get. But this one's a hand-only car wash, and we worked out a design with them to do everything indoors only. There'll be no exterior, vacuuming, cleaning, car washing, everything is inside the building. And I really worked with him to get it to work, and he said, it's a little more than he thought, but he got it to work, and he says, I really want to be in Milton, so it's another good plus. The code is working if we just hold to it. It will work. So that lot will be developed. This one is just a lot north of the public safety complex. They're coming in with two lower retail and upper office structures on that lot as well. This is the Apple Orchard property. There's new owners on this property, and I'm starting to see some minor activity going on there. I'm sure we're gonna call them in and find out what they're looking to do and see what we could do there. This is another lot where they wanted to do some commercial liner buildings and then residential behind, which right now the code is not allowing. This one is the development of Morris and Webb. So this one here, what they were looking to do is some retail buildings along Webb Road and then some mixed use along Morris Road. So it was just in for concept plan, and there's nothing solidified here, but I just showed it as an example of the potential interest in the area of people doing it. And we certainly haven't solidified any designs or any approvals or anything on it. So I don't want to, I just use it as an example of potential interest in our area, which is good because the interest rates have been going up and things are getting a little tougher, but we're still getting a good, strong interest. This one here is under construction now. It's the Deerfield Dentistry. It's on Cogburn, and it's under construction. It's much further along than these photos show it, but I think everybody's probably driven by it and seen it already, so I won't dwell on it. This property is part of the Walmart Shopping Center. They gave me a long list of exclusions, uses they won't allow from a Walmart perspective, but we did get a dental office moved in with another small retail store next to it, maybe potentially ice cream, and Walmart was not against those. So I think we can get this site built. I mean, I'd kind of like to see this site actually get developed. Right now, they're just using it for truck storage, and I think it's unsightly, and it would be nice to see this site actually go. This is Jim and Nick's. This was the old KFC. They moved out, and we got Jim and Nick's in there and really making it into more of a restaurant. So if you look at it, I think they've invested quite a bit of energy in the design to really meet our standards. And it looks really nice. They enclosed the cooking equipment. They built a big chimney. They have an outdoor seating area. I think it's really going to be a good plus for that area. I almost wish it had more exposure to Highway 9 for people to see it, but I think it's good. This next one is the duplexes that are finally going vertical. They did all their LDP work, the land work, but they are going vertical. There's the one right across from Freedom Park and Deerfield Green. So you'll see those going up. This is a revitalization of the Watercrest Shopping Center. So you'll see right here, this building here, we work with the owner to, we work with the owner to restore and rehab the front facade of this building. So at the time, he was at around 60% occupancy, and after he was done doing what we suggested for his implementation, he's now up to 100% occupancy, And then along this strip here, I keep hitting the wrong button. Along this strip here, the bottom photo is showing additional, since he's doing so well, he's now coming in, he's got his LDP in, and he's looking to do an additional addition, retail on 2 floors. So he's got retail on the ground floor, retail on the second floor as well. So I think that shows a good illustration of some revitalization of some of our older shopping centers. So there's 2 things. I just want to throw this out really fast. I mean, we're constantly looking from a staff perspective in the urbanized areas to get and attract new businesses. But we're also spending an enormous amount of effort to enhance the existing businesses, enhance existing buildings. Anita's been going crazy doing face-to-face, each and every single landowner, each and every single business owner, working with them. What do we need to do? What are things that would keep you here? How long is your lease? What do you like about Milton? How do we expand? A lot of these companies, businesses are asking now for second expansion space. So it's both. Do we look at the new? Yes. And we're encouraging new development always, but we're also looking to maintain all our existing businesses. They're part of our community and we want them to be involved with the community, and we're really working with them. So from a metric standpoint, it's just an incredible amount of effort that's going in there, and I promise you it's a huge effort. We did a beautification study. We're looking at every sign, making sure everything's in compliance. I know Councilmember Jacobus and Morg looked at me and said, we want to keep that corridor looking as sharp as we can. And they remind me every day, and I make this promise that we are working very hard to maintain that corridor and enhance that corridor. And later, Anita will get up and tell you about our placemaking and branding, which is a big part of it. Okay, and then I just want to flip you over just really fast because I know everybody here, including Ken, worked very hard on Chadwick Village over in Autumn Mill Road, and I just wanted to show you some pictures here. These are all done, approved, and they're just waiting for Fulton County Water approval from Water Supply, and then this project will actually get going. So it's something bigger on the Chadwick side from Autumn Mill side from Chadwick Village. And I think this will really help us out over there too. It will show a node growing. I know the council put a lot of effort into this, and we made sure that there was a minimum number of buildings. So the front three line of buildings are going to get built all at once. So they're not going to be able to just do the one building and let it go for 5 years. You'll see a critical mass actually get established out there, which was really a great asset. And this is just Birmingham Crossroads. We're really working hard with them. We're working hard for signage. We're working hard with meeting them as well, all their businesses, keeping them healthy and vibrant. But this is a park that we created up there as part of the development. It's open to the public. And I just wanted to show it because every one of these developments, and if you drive through there, they're actually coming out quite nice. They look really good. We designed each and every one of those buildings. And there's retail and medical up there getting built as well. But the nice part is that, we got them to build this public park. And I think that's a really nice asset for the public to have these little pocket parks. Steve came to me the other day and said that we should be naming them all. I think that was a great suggestion because I think it gives them identity since we have a number of them. Okay, just some quick staff highlights. I'm not going to go through them all, but I just show these because they're awards and certifications that the staff has been getting. So the changeover has been we're no longer utilizing consultants to do all our work, outside consultants. What we're doing is doing most of this work in-house. And as a result, what I'm doing is getting the staff to actually go for additional training, get additional certifications, and actually get a better core value of what planning is and what we need to do. And I think this will enhance the output of staff. And I'm seeing a higher output from my staff already, just based on what they're doing here. These are really good certifications. They're not easy to get. We have some AICP certifications. We have Emerging Leaders Program, which is something that Stacy has put together. And quite frankly, we really take it very serious. It's a great program. It's comprehensive, and staff is just overwhelmed with it. That they just think they're getting a lot out of it. And quite frankly, they're even going to lunch together as a group. I mean, the whole thing has just been so successful. So I just hands out to Stacy for putting that together, because I think there's a lot of work that goes into these in creating each one of these. And it's really been a successful program. So thank you, Stacy. Okay, so this is on the professional development side. Same thing, staff training. What they're doing, just to show you the progress we've been making from a metric standpoint. 30% of the training that we identified early in the year has already been totally complete. 37% of the training is still in progress. Some of these things are college courses and courses that, that they span over several months before you actually can graduate and get your course. But the staff is doing it, and they're looking at it. We have from economic development programs with Carl Vincent, which is a great program as well. So you can see each one of these has a various degree of training that the staff is vigorously going through. And then customer service. Now, of course, customer service at the end of the day is primary focus for community development. We initiated Ask the Arborist, which was an awesome program. It's been working. We had 36 emails, 8 posts, but we've gotten great response from it. Our national survey, believe we had about an 89% overall satisfaction of 400 cities. We're like at almost the 90 percentile. That shows that we're doing very well there. And the planner of the day has been working great. Anybody's got a question, I just want to remind you, you just call the planner of the day, and that person is identified to your particular inquiry and will stay with it until it's resolved. And no matter who they need to go to get the information, at least you have one point of contact. You don't call up and get a machine. You don't call up and they say, hold on, I'm going to transfer you. You call the planner of the day, email the planner of the day. That is the person you can contact. It's a live person. It works. What we do is rotate our planners through it. It's a great educational training program because they get questions and they have to figure out what to do. With that, if you don't have any questions, hopefully I
Questions for
kept that
Bob?
short.
Questions? Nope. Thank you, Bob.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
thanks, Neil.
City Clerk, please stay on the next item.
Mayor, the next item is discussion of traffic calming program, ordinance, and policy. It is going to be presented by our Public Works Director, Ms. Sarah Leaders.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try to move through this quickly, but it's a lot of information on the traffic calming, both the ordinance and the policy. So we'll run through the history of the traffic calming program, what's in the ordinance, the policy and procedure, which makes up the process, some examples, and then I would like to have some discussion on if there's interest in making some possible changes to the ordinance, policy, or both. First of all, what is traffic calming? And the main goal of it is to reduce speed and raise awareness of traffic problems, specifically in residential areas. And traffic calming is looked at through 2 different types of measures, passive and active. The main difference between those is the geometry of the roadway is changed with the active measures. Passive are lower cost and minimal construction that could be sign striping or warning or radar signs. Another thing I wanted to point out is that as part of the subdivision ordinance, new streets that are longer than 600 feet are required to incorporate some form of traffic calming, whether it's passive or the active side. So the program started in 2007 with a ordinance that established eligible roadways, which you can see here, a petition requirement, but it also included an HOA provision. At that time, it was a 75% city cost share. And then the other thing about the first ordinance was that the process and the details, the list of all the different types of measures were actually part of the ordinance and not a separate policy document. Then in 2009 to 2010, we worked on an update to the ordinance and created a policy. We hired an outside consultant to help us review the existing ordinance, bring some best practices that looked at programs throughout the country, looked at our backlog requests, so everything we had gotten a request on since we became a city. We did counts of those neighborhoods and looked at speeds and other criteria to help us really formulate the program. And finally, their goal was to help us develop the program, and those changes were adopted in April of 2010. Okay, any questions on the history before I jump into the ordinance? Good, okay. So the ordinance first is made up of eligibility. So it's the roads that are eligible to use city funds to implement traffic calming. And that eligibility really looks at kind of the cost benefit of the volume and the use of the roadway to make sure it makes sense to use city matching funds for that. The map on this slide shows a lot of the higher speed, higher classification roadways. Those are not what we would implement under this traffic calming program. So it's the lighter gray lines on this slide on the map are the kind of those residential areas. And our ordinance requires greater than half of the vehicles exceeding the posted speed limit. Like I mentioned, the speed limit 30 miles an hour or less. And then the average daily traffic, that's really, again, to look at the cost benefit of implementing traffic calming using city funding. So a 400 vehicle a day roadway would typically be about a 40 lot neighborhood. You usually get about 10 trips per house. Next portion of the ordinance is the petition. So we have a required percentage approval of 67% of homeowners in the study area. But we also have a provision for the HOA or other mandatory HOA or other legal entity which may lawfully represent the neighbor's position can act in lieu of the petition process. Next part of the ordinance is the cost share that is set up at currently a 50% city match for what we call a basic device, and our policy lays out what those are. The applicant would be responsible for anything above and beyond that basic element of the detail. And the last section of the ordinance I wanted to touch on was removal and permitting. So the city does reserve the right to remove traffic calming at any time for any reason. And then for permitting, any work completed by the applicant within the right-of-way requires a permit. Any questions on ordinance before I jump into the policy side? So the ordinance does defer to the policy and procedures manual to really lay out the process for traffic calming applications. The applicants request traffic calming through an application form where they describe the concerns and request. It also probably can't read it in detail here, but it spells out who the applicant is, that it's either an officer of the homeowners association or someone that has authorized to act on behalf of the group of neighbors. So we do only look at applications from someone that has the authorization to represent the group. And then Public Works manages the application process. So we review the area requested, we determine the types of studies, and then actually conduct those studies. We look at that eligibility criteria of the roadway, if it meets the minimum volumes, and then conduct any speed studies. After we have the studies done, meet with the applicant to discuss the findings and some concept solutions. And what the city brings to that meeting is really the best practices and engineering judgment to help lay out what some solutions could be. And we rely on the applicant to bring some context sensitivity. So that could be that where a bus stop is located or something that might not be evident to us as we're doing our data collection. And then lastly, we discuss construction and installation options. And I'll get into each of these options and examples that we have implemented over the years. So first is if the road is determined eligible and the city funds are going to be used. So constructed with city cost share, privately constructed with or without cost share, and then some that aren't eligible for city funds but could be privately constructed and permitted. The first example is city constructed with the cost share. So that would come before you all in the form of a construction contract where the funding impact would list that the applicant is contributing to the project. So the applicant would pay the city in this example. And the city would manage the bidding, the construction, and overseeing the project. And these are some examples that have been implemented since 2012 with various types of devices. And then this slide shows the privately constructed options where the road is eligible. There's an option if it's eligible for the applicant to construct it with no cost share. And in that case, the HOA would sign an agreement that they would indemnify the city and they would maintain the devices. And city staff's component in that would be to review and issue a right-of-way permit. The example of a neighborhood that followed that part of the process was Hopewell Plantation in 2017. And then we have privately constructed where cost share is requested. So it's the same scenario as the example above, but in this case, the agreement does include a cost share component, and so it does come before you for review and approval. And that example is the white columns radar signs. And the last process is if a neighborhood might not be eligible based on the volumes or the speeds, but they're still interested in permitting and constructing traffic calming. And in this case, the applicant completely funds the measures. The HOA still does that indemnity and maintenance agreement, and city staff still issues the right-of-way permit. And that example is Bethany Creek. It's the map on the right. They did 3 of these, what they call the mini speed hump in 2018. So kind of some highlight points to summarize the review of our ordinance, our policy, and what we've done in the past is that the eligibility really is set up to determine if city funds can be used. And currently, without city funds being used, measures can still be permitted by staff and privately funded and installed. All the examples I showed you have used the provision for HOA to act on behalf of the neighborhood. And our code allows work in the right-of-way. Code allows Public Works to manage and permit work in the right-of-way that could include traffic calming measures by others. And then like I said, without the cost share, typically those agreements have not come before council for action. Then I wanted to end with some possible changes for discussion. If there's interest in going the route of a complete petition requirement with removing the HOA provision. If we look at removing the city cost share and look at only privately constructed measures where all proposals would still require a permit and they'd still have staff review, but it would remove the city's financial contribution to traffic calming. And then another option is if we modify the process where there is council consideration with the applications. And I do have this table that shows some other jurisdictions and kind of those 3 components, the eligibility, the petition, and the cost share, that I can talk about these a little more. If you're interested in seeing them, I can leave this slide up. But that concludes my presentation, and I'd be glad to answer any questions or get some feedback on if we're interested in looking at some changes.
Rick?
Sure. Sarah, just so I understand, when we have traffic calming, this is not the city initiating. This would be a homeowner association or a group coming forward saying, in our city or in our subdivision, we'd like to have these devices, and then you guys go through to say, is it eligible, et cetera. Is that correct?
That is correct, right.
Okay. I noticed a couple of the examples down there. I'd like to see us, as far as my recommendation, I'd love to see us go to 67% and strike the HOA override, just because I think that way you make sure you've got buy-in of the homeowners in that subdivision, because they're going to be the ones who are impacted. You obviously, staff still has to say, yes, it's appropriate if they petition. And I guess along the same way, one of your options was to eliminate cost sharing. I think if if a subdivision or homeowners decide they in fact want to add something that the city's not saying is required for safety, but they want to add it, I think we shouldn't ask the rest of the Milton taxpayers, general taxes, to be applied to a cost share. That's just my view. I think that's been a holdover from Fulton County days when we became a city. That kind of came with it as far as the cost sharing option. And I know we reduced it down to 50-50, but I'd like to see us, personally, I'd like to see us eliminate the cost sharing, still have the program, but have a little bit higher threshold for within the homeowner. The homeowner's actually given a majority or supermajority approval versus having a homeowner association be able to not necessarily, I know they represent the neighborhood, but they may not have the will of the neighborhood, a greater percentage. My comments.
Anybody else? I would just prefer not to have a council consideration. I'm okay with the 67%, and I just would personally not, 67% approve it, and we're not using city funds. I mean, I just would prefer the council not to be in every HOA issue. That's just my. Paul?
Yeah, I just would echo the comments that Rick made, having been through this battle more recently. I don't believe that the neighborhood was properly represented by the HOA, and as such, it was just, the outcome was not a desired outcome by the greater community. So I think Rick's suggestion or yours of the 67% from the community, take the HOA out of the mix, remove cost sharing as a city entirety, and I'm kind of on the fence with the city involvement in the decision-making, but look forward to a recommendation, some additional discussion on that.
Anybody else?
I'm in favor of eliminating the cost share together, and I definitely think it should be 7 versus DH.
Anybody else? We give you some direction?
And
Close
keep
enough.
active and passive both the same. What I wanted to show here is actually some jurisdictions have different thresholds and requirements depending on if it's active or passive, or just group any private improvement in the right of way as traffic calming.
I mean, I guess I want to go back real quick. So if council's okay with 67% and getting rid of the cost share, I personally don't see how city council should be seeing those decisions if it meets those two. If we're taking those two, I'd see at that point we shouldn't be discussing that.
I'd echo what Peyton said. I mean, I'm comfortable with Public Works taking a look at it because you have to vet and go through the process and permit it. I don't think that needs to come before council because we're not really going to add anything to it if you've already seen it, especially if we don't have the cost share and we know 67% or higher of the neighbors that actually live there, the households have said this is what they want.
What was your question again? I know I got off track. What was that?
Active versus passive.
Yeah.
Right. So like Roswell has two different programs, one for active and one for passive, which the passive they don't require a petition on, but they also don't give any city funding for that. So I found a few examples where it was a different program for some of the lower impact kind of measures, or if there are other jurisdictions that treat them all the same. So just wondering if there's an interest in looking at
I'm okay with that.
I would, my recommendation would be to treat them all the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
That give direction?
I think so.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, will the city clerk please say on the next item? We're actually, no, we're done with reports and presentations. So we're going to go on to we have no first presentation items, so we'll move on to the public hearing. Will the city clerk please sound that item?
Mayor, that first item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to AKP Butchers LLC, doing business as New York Butcher Shop and Wine Bar. It's located at 12635 Crabapple Road, Suite 120 in Milton. It's agenda item number 22385. Our finance director, Ms. Karen Ellis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just going to wait for the presentation to come up. So this first group of presentations I'm going to do tonight for alcohol beverage are regarding Sunday sales, which is a little different than what our normal presentation is. And these are due to changes in the Chapter 4. So I'm going to go over briefly here in Section 4.73, where to qualify for Sunday sales, we need an establishment to derive a minimum of 50% of its total gross sales from sale of prepared foods and meals as defined in the chapter. Microbreweries, microdistilleries, and farm wineries would be exempt from this requirement, and we have one example of each. So this is the reasoning for these two different alcohol beverage or additional alcohol beverage licenses this evening. So the first one read was AKP Butchers LLC, doing business as New York Butcher Shop and Wine Bar. They're located at 12635 Crabapple Road, Suite 120. They are just applying for the on-premise Sunday sales. They meet the 50% minimum of total gross sales of food and beverage. They were advertised in the Herald on 12/8/22 and 12/15/22. Their original license was approved in February of 22 for package retail, wine and malt beverage, craft beer, and wine market. And this is where they're located in the Crabapple District. If you have any questions on that one, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions? Okay, Tammy, do we have any public comment?
Not on this item, sir.
Okay, so we'll close public comment and the public hearing is closed. We'll vote on that later. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, that next item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Milton Brewing LLC, doing business as Six Bridges Brewing and Craft Spirits, located at 1850 Heritage Walk in Milton. It's agenda item number 22386. Ms. Karen Ellis.
This item is for Milton Brewing LLC, doing business as Six Bridges Brewing. Keeps blinking out.
Come in.
And Craft Spirits. It's located at 1850 Heritage Walk, and they're also applying just for the on-premise Sunday sales. They are exempt from the 50% food sales requirement, gross food sales, as being a microbrewery and micro distiller. They were advertised in the Milton Herald on 12/8/22 and 12/15/22, and their original ABL was approved on 9/19 for manufacturing, microbrewery, and micro distillery. And here's where they're located in relation to others. If you have any questions on that one, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions? All right, any public comment?
No, sir, not
Okay,
on
we'll
this item.
close the public hearing and we'll vote on that later. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
That next item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Milton YP LLC, doing business as Your Pie in Milton. It's 2955 Bethany Bend, Suite 3009 in Milton.
Tammy, I think we're on item C.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over one. My apologies.
Okay.
Item C, my apologies. Consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to IBI Investments, Inc. It's doing business as Aberdeen Steakhouse, located at 3000 Heritage Walk, Suite 101 in Milton. It's agenda item number 22387. Karen?
This is an alcohol beverage license for IBI Investments, Inc., doing business as Aberdeen Steakhouse. They are located at 3000 Heritage Walk, Unit 101, and they're applying for consumption on premises, wine, malt beverage, distilled spirits, on-premise Sunday sales, and resident caterer. This was advertised in the Milton Herald on 12/8/22 and 12/15/22. Here's where they're located, off Heritage Walk. There'll be a full-service restaurant with seating that will exceed 40% of the gross square footage of the restaurant facility. That excludes any outdoor space. And they also qualify for Sunday sales as deriving a minimum of 50% of the total gross sales from the sale of prepared food and meals. Gross square footage of the facility comes in at about 4.5 thousand square feet, with a seating area at 1.9, which is 43% of the area being seating. If you have any questions.
Okay. Any public comment?
There are none.
Okay, we'll close public hearing and we'll go on to the next item.
That item is item D, consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Milton YP LLC, doing business as Your Pie Milton, located at 2955 Bethany Bend, Suite 309 in Milton. It's agenda item number 22388. Ms. Karen Ellis.
We are ready to drink this year, aren't we? We're on number 4. Okay, YP LLC, our last one of the evening, doing business as Your Pie Milton. They are located at 2955 Bethany Bend, Suite 309, right next door to public safety. They're applying for consumption on premises, wine, malt beverage, distilled spirits, and on-premise Sunday sales. They also were advertised in the Milton Herald, 12/8/22 and 12/15/22. And here's where they're located, off Highway 9. They will also be a full-service restaurant with a seating area of at least 40% of the square footage of the restaurant facility and will qualify for Sunday sales, meeting the minimum of 50% of total gross sales from the sale of prepared food and meals. Their gross square footage is about 2.1 thousand square feet with a seating area of little over 1,000 square feet at 47% of the facility. If you have any questions on that one, I'll be glad to answer them.
No? Any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, close the public hearing, and we'll move on to the next item.
Mayor, item E is consideration of a resolution of the City of Milton extending an existing moratorium on the acceptance of applications for development permissions, plats, plans, and permits within a 22 parcel area known as the District at Mayfield. It is agenda item number 22389. Our community, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. I will do the presentation with respect to the public hearing this evening. So Georgia governments are authorized to enact moratoriums. This is uniquely so when they are undertaking to make code modifications, the thought being that if a code modification, which inevitably takes time, permitting can continue, that by the time that the code actually comes to fruition, all of the permitting in that area will have been undertaken, and therefore it's too late. So we have in fact put in place a moratorium to stop the issuance, as our clerk mentioned, of the acceptance of applications for concept plans, preliminary plats, infill regulation plans, use permits, building permits, demolition permits, grading permits, and land disturbance permits, or LDPs, with respect to certain discrete tax parcels that are going to make up what we're calling the District at Mayfield. And if the council looks in its packet, you will see actually a plat in the back that actually calls out the parcels that are impacted by this moratorium. Now, the moratorium is in place, actually ends tomorrow. This was a moratorium that was put in place back in June. It ends tomorrow, and not surprisingly, because a lot of places where I work, you have an expectation of how long it's going to take to do something. It takes longer. A lot of times these are very sort of symbiotic relationships, require a lot of public input, et cetera, a lot of community stakeholder input. So the ask here this evening is to have another public hearing, which I think is the appropriate procedural protocol for transparency and compliance with the zoning procedures law and a couple of things, but to extend the moratorium. Now, we advertised to extend the moratorium till September 19th, but I believe staff doesn't need that long. And so we are actually shortening the anticipated need for the moratorium actually to June 20th of 2023. So again, it would be that prohibition on all the sorts of permits I talked about until June 20th of 2023. It may actually, though, the actual product may come to fruition even earlier than that. And the way we draft our moratoriums is that obviously it'll end on the date that you say it'll end. But if we put in place the new code that is underpinning the moratorium, then the moratorium ends as a matter of law the very night that you do that. So in other words, if this gets done in May, then the moratorium ends in May, and there's no action for the council to take for it to end. That's just the way the moratorium's written. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what I would ask of you this evening is with respect to this moratorium for these tax parcels that make up the district at Mayfield, we do need a public hearing, hear what the citizens have to say about it, and then when we get to our new business agenda, you can take action. I also know that there has been at least some discussion on perhaps opening up a very modest exception under the moratorium with respect to some exterior building permits that have no discernible impact on the exterior look and feel of the community. And what we're talking about, and again, I don't want to get ahead of the council, but I just want to put this in your head, is that if the council wants to make a very modest sort of escape hatch for the moratorium, at least the information that was conveyed to me would be a modest allowance for the issuance of building permits for minor exterior modifications with two criteria at play. Number one, the minor exterior building permit shall not result in any exterior improvement of greater than 500 aggregate square feet of disturbance or improvement. That in the discretion
Bless you.
of the director, the proposed improvement is not inconsistent with the overall objectives of the proposed overlay. Again, we can go over that when we get into do business, but I wanted to at least reference that had been something that had been communicated as a potential minor exception. Mr. Mayor, that's my presentation.
All right, thank you. Might be turning it over to you for that motion. That's a pretty long one there. Any questions to Ken, or is Bob here? Yeah, okay, any questions right now? All right, any public comment?
There are.
Okay, so we'll go
Mayor-
ahead and call the public comment.
I'd like to invite Jody Mason Jones to the podium, please.
Is this support or opposition?
Support.
Okay, thanks. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jody Mason Jones, 3186 Valley Forest Drive, Milton, Georgia. We have a salon business in Johns Creek currently. It's pretty successful. We've outgrown it. It's at McGinnis Ferry and Medlock Bridge Road. So in the last couple of years, since we live in Milton, we've looked around and tried to find properties that would work for our expansion into another location. So we've looked everywhere. We've come across this 825 Mayfield that sits into this moratorium that we're talking about. And we really just want to keep the building the same. There are some minor modifications to the exterior. This one here is the existing as it is plan. And then you'll see there's like a little space in the front porch, and there's a space on the back for another covered porch. It's just using a little bit of that already roofed over space for what would be a retail reception area. And then on the back part where this is, for some shampoo bowls that already has a roof covering that as well. We would just be enclosing it. So we're just looking to see what we can do to preserve and keep the building as is, just to allow it to have the use that we need for it as we move forward. We're under contract with it currently.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Call the next speaker, please.
Ms. Sally Rich Cobb, I invite you to the podium.
Let's see, because I'm going to shake too much. I won't be able to hold my phone. I'm Sally Rich Cobb at 765 Mid-Broadwell Road in Milton. And I'd like for this moratorium on Mayfield to end tonight. The reasons why is because, unlike maybe others, I was not informed about this moratorium by anyone at the city until 2 weeks before the vote in a letter from Robin. Even in the letter, it was not clear when the vote would take place. Therefore, when I spoke, I did not inform you of my contract on two of my properties at 765 and 785 Mid-Broadwell. They should have been taken out of the district as 840 Mid-Broadwell was taken out. At that meeting, if prepared or if someone had contacted me during the summer when others may have been contacted, I could have gotten those two properties out of the district and thus sold in September. Even now, because of this moratorium, I cannot receive another offer, nor do we know how this district will affect our values. Other developers, even on Broadwell now, have been able to develop according to the form-based code and maybe even more density with the TDRs. We would be the only area subject to additional restrictions. This is unfair and this is bias. This could affect our property's density that other developers have enjoyed. Over the 20 years of growth, we have seen Crabapple develop into a vibrant city, and the planning has gone well. I would like for the city to use their resources, the taxpayers' money, on things needed and not another study on how to develop this area, as we already have developers, designers, engineers, etc., on board to make this area just as nice as the other areas, without penalizing those of us who have been waiting years to sell and develop at its highest and best use. I'm not sure if what is happening here is eminent domain, but it sure does feel like it. Again, I would like to have those two properties at 765 and 785 Mid-Broadwell taken out of this district. And if that means a no vote to extend the moratorium tonight or just to table it until it can be done, that would be my wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Will please call the next speaker?
That concludes on this item.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and we'll please, so we have no zoning agendas. We'll move on to unfinished business. Will the city clerk please stay on that item?
Mayor, that item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 5, to add a new Division 9, Milton Sustainability Advisory Committee. It's agenda item number 22370. Miss Emily Groff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I have for your consideration an ordinance amendment to create the Milton Sustainability Advisory Committee under Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 9. We received direction from Council to move forward with this committee on September 7th, and the ordinance was first presented on December 5th. We're proposing a standing committee to assist with the creation and oversight of a new recycling and solid waste management plan. And the committee will also provide guidance on citywide environmental projects and initiatives like our Green Communities certification and our annual events like Rivers Alive and Earth Day. Council guidance also favored that member appointments be made citywide. This committee will play a vital role in many of the city's environmental initiatives. This is in line with our strategic priority number 1, to ensure Milton's sustainability and resiliency, and goal number 3, to protect and preserve Milton's environment through sound land use, environmental stewardship, green infrastructure, and sustainable practices. Those involved with this strategic goal should be a cohesive group of committee members, council, staff, residents, and business owners, and our waste haulers. The committee members will provide direction needed to best represent and serve our city on various environmental projects. So to recap, we're proposing this committee be formed under Article 5, boards and committees, with sections similar to our other resident-led committees. Membership will consist of 7 Milton residents, 21 years or older, to be appointed citywide. And these appointments will allow for a more tailored group of residents with representation from important user groups like homeowners on gravel roads, residents that utilize accessible or driveway services, those in suburban areas, and commercial users. And we can also better account for those that have experience in the waste and recycling industry and general understanding of planning and a passion for environmentalism and sustainability. So if the ordinance is adopted tonight, we're proposing that member appointments be completed by January in time for the first meeting in February. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Rick?
As far as the representation, I know some of our committees, we try to draw from the various districts. On this one, because it is specialized, would each council have an appointment, and would they appoint from their district, or can it be from at large within the city?
I think it would be citywide, regardless of district.
It would still be, we'd each appoint one, but it could be, we can find from wherever
Right.
resources.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Any public comment?
There are none, sir.
Okay. Close public comment. I will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve agenda item 22-370 as presented by Emily, which was terrific. We look forward to this being a wonderful addition to our Milton Sustainability Plan.
Second?
Okay. I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 22-370. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate it, Emily.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go on record, I have dibs on Mark Arrington.
I wrote him down first. Moving on to new business. Will the city clerk please sound the first item?
Mayor, that item is consideration of a resolution of the City of Milton, Georgia to authorize a municipal superintendent to conduct all municipal elections. It's agenda item number 22-390. Our city manager, Mr. Stephen Krokoff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In November of 2021, City Council directed staff to convene an informal work group comprised of 6 members, 2 members from the community, 2 from the City Council, and 2 from staff, to start the process of examining the scope and timeline for next steps in conducting a municipal election feasibility study. In April 2022, the group was formalized and officially began its feasibility work. The committee focused on whether it was feasible, both practically and financially, for the City of Milton to conduct its own municipal elections. Following months of work, including the review of relevant laws, processes as outlined in the Georgia Election Code Manual, and countless interviews with subject matter experts, the committee formed its recommendation that the City of Milton should conduct its own municipal elections beginning in 2023. Members of the committee presented before the City Council at the December 5th council meeting, where they estimated savings to range from $114,000 to $117,000 in 2023 and $130,000 to $133,000 each cycle thereafter. Mayor and Council, I have several members of the committee present if you have any questions, and this is up for your consideration this evening.
All right. Jan?
It may just be in the wording here, but I didn't realize we were authorizing a superintendent. This, the way it's worded here, does this mean we're authorizing an additional headcount?
Not necessarily. This would be it could be a member of staff, it could be a member from the community, but it will be the council that makes the appointment. But you do need an election superintendent to be able to run a municipal election.
Okay,
Is,
thank you.
so what we're actually voting on tonight would be, as you stated, we're approving shifting from using Fulton County to run our elections to Milton actually running our own elections. And part of that, as you said, by the state, it is required that if we approve to take over our own elections running, we will have to come up with a superintendent. So it's first to approve us doing it, but then authorizing the city to have a superintendent for elections.
Everything you said is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Paul?
I was just going to clarify that as well. The way the resolution reads, it's a statement that declares that we have to make this statement or take this action to appoint this action of the placement of the superintendent, which we look for. We had some discussions with the city manager about how he or staff may choose to, but primarily Steve, to suggest superintendent, and then it's ultimately approved by council. So I'm in complete support of this action that we've been asked to take this evening.
Any other questions before public comment? Okay, public comment, Tammy?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I'd like to invite Mr. Robin Frickton to the podium, please.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Robert Frickton. I live at 2970 Francis Road, Milton, Georgia. I've lived here almost 40 years. I have voted in 77 elections in Fulton County. I have never had any problems with Fulton County. I know that my vote counted, that 77 number of how many times I voted, that was information sent to the state to keep track of all, how you voted. You had somebody at one of the meetings say she didn't even know if the vote counted. Well, this doesn't say who you voted for, but it does say you did vote. Okay. Now, What I've seen, I've been watching the videos and whatnot and read all the stuff. It isn't about money. You guys have money. You know that, and I know that. You come up with money all the time for different things. This is not about money. This is something about trying to get an election that somebody besides the citizens of Milton have control over. The people I've seen at the meetings, half of them were from the city of Roswell, as far as they were saying. I mean, that's the whole thing. We don't check IDs. We don't know if they're from the city of Roswell, from Texas. We don't know. But it doesn't seem to matter. You guys listen to them, and they say, oh, well, I'm a poll worker, and I saw county people doing this and that. But there's not been any proof there's been any problems. I mean, there's been, I think, what was it, 25,000 things come up that said that, oh, you know, the city, well, I guess it was the state, had all these problems, but they couldn't prove anything. The people that were saying there was problems, they have no proof. They're just saying something. Okay? Where's the proof? For you guys to vote on this, one is, what are the procedures that they're going to go by to handle the voting? What are the security measures? Where those ballots that you're going to get, where are you going to keep them? Who's controlling that? They got to be locked up, and it's paper. So I could give Tammy a copy of it. She can make 500 copies, unless the paper is numbered. I mean, we don't know. Does anybody know if the ballots are going to be numbered? Is the paper special? I mean, I don't know. But I mean, where's the information about how this is going to be run? We don't know. I was never worried about security before. I'm definitely not worried about the money, all right? But I'm worried about security. And see, if the city's taken over and you got people who are on the committee that is very questionable how trustworthy they are. I don't think the two citizens you had on there were the best pick of any type. There are a lot more people in Milton that are they're more eligible, more civic minded than those two ever were. They were political pawns, trying to let you guys be political pawns also. I saw you guys I think it was last week, saying you're all ready to vote on it and go for it. But I say you don't vote on it until you get information about how this thing's really going to be run. And you're not concerned, you're concerned about the money, but you're not concerned about the voters. How long are we going to have to wait in line? Unfortunately in Milton, we got 4,000 voters. If each person can vote, takes 1 minute to make the vote, in those 10 booths that you have, you can get it done in 6 hours. But that's not what's going to happen. If it takes 10 minutes for somebody to get in there, get their paper and everything, that's going to really be about 3 days worth of time for people to go through all the voting. But you're only asking for, I think, 1 day or 2 days of voting. I don't know. I mean, you really got to look at it. You got to consider the voters, not the money. The money, you guys, like I said, you guys find money all the time. Okay? I didn't hear anybody raise any concern during the budget process that we want to save money on the elections. All of a sudden it pops up, and you guys go for it. Now, I know you're all Republicans. I don't know if you're deniers or not, or that if you're a medical professional who don't like the COVID, whatever. Okay, but as a voter and a veteran, I don't agree that this thing should go through until you get more information. Where's the security? Who's going to be handling these ballots? Paper is a lot easier to copy
Time's expired.
than the electronics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frickton. All right, please call the next speaker.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Mr. Kevin Muldowney to the podium, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Kevin Muldowney, 3325 Kentworth Lane in Crooked Creek. I would like to very much compliment Lisa Cawley and Mark Amick on an extremely complete and concise presentation at the December 5th City Council meeting, where all those questions that were just raised were completely answered and addressed. It's clear to me and many Milton residents that the reality of running our own municipal elections in a nonpartisan and very much fiscally responsible way. I was at the Fulton BRA meeting this last Monday, and they're seriously considered charging the cities even more than earlier anticipated. I believe our presentation was run at a cost of $6 per registered voter. The Fulton BRA was about to take a vote on Monday that would authorize a cost of $11 per registered voter. Their perception of reality is questionable, to say the least. The founding of our city was the result of Fulton's lack of responsiveness to the needs of the northern citizenry. We claim in our own mission statement that we lead from the front. We are servant leaders committed to being visible, accessible, and engaged. We walk the talk by setting examples for others to follow. Fulton has once again demonstrated a complete lack of interest in our needs. The administration of our own municipal elections is clearly cost-effective and nonpartisan. Our surrounding cities are watching our lead. We need to vote yes in the best interest of our city and continue to set example for others to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, that next speaker. Mayor, I invite Mr. Brett Cromie to the podium, please.
Thank you. Brett Cromie, 14147 Seabiscuit, Milton. I support Milton running its own elections. There should be a unanimous choice to vote to support local control of Milton elections. I'd like to believe that the public need not be here for such an easy decision, but alas, here we must be. I hope this level of participation won't be required to ensure you make the right decisions going forward. As we've learned the last few weeks from your excellent panel and new information from Fulton County, that the city will likely save $200,000 by supporting this recommendation. Fulton County has and is negligently and dramatically overcharging us to run elections. Also, I want to remind you that if you only have these positions here because in 2006, voters in the Milton area wanted protection from the clown show known as Fulton County. They don't expect you to join them or join the big top. The city formed because the people wanted local control over issues related to their lives. To quote the leader of the Milton City Initiative back in 2006, he said, quote, "We can provide services more efficiently and more effectively than Fulton County. This issue is the perfect one to show you care about the residents and that you embrace our desire for local control and ultimately understand your purpose. You will also greatly reduce government costs, which is something all 7 of you on council should care about. In other words, if you vote against this, you are voting against the whole origin of your jobs and acting against the benefit of the residents. A no vote would only be a vote for yourselves or some other master. If you vote no, you don't belong on this dais. So do the right thing and vote for local control and for reducing the cost and scope of government in this vote and all future votes. Thank you."
Thank you. If you please call the next speaker.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Mr. Michael Coolbroth to the podium, please.
All right, thank you. Can you repeat that name?
Michael Coolbroth to the podium, please.
Good evening. Property owner since 1996, and pretty much all the points have been made.
You can state your address, please, for the record.
565 Bertram Way.
Thank you. What city?
That's Roswell.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're going to sell. And
That's fine. It's just for the record.
Fine. Anyway, the potential savings is fine. That's always favorable, I'm sure, to everyone. But what's important is credibility and transparency. And there's a whole lot of dissension amongst a lot of people with elections, not just this last one or two, but just the process, the machines, and the lack of control and software issues, anything. But I just wanted to point that out, that it would be incumbent on this council to take it on themselves to control this process. And that way it's personally monitored, and the accountability, starts and stops with you guys. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Russell Carlisle to the podium, please.
Good evening. I'm Russell Carlisle. I live in Roswell, Georgia, about 4 miles from here. And I knew Milton before it was Milton because I've lived here all my life.
Will you state your current address, please?
11400 Hackett Road,
Thank you.
Roswell, Georgia. So I wasn't at the previous meetings, and I know there was a lot of evidence presented about why you should go to a hand-counted paper ballot system in Milton. But there has been numerous cases where when the Dominion voting system was analyzed through the hand count of the paper ballot in Georgia and other places, almost every time the count was wrong. There's been several cases where elections have been overturned. And I don't think I will convince you to go to this voting system tonight because you probably already made up your mind. But I know from serving on the city council in Roswell, sometimes it takes courage and it takes some integrity to admit that something needs to be done. And I'm telling you, something needs to be done. And you can be a shining light and you can take the lead and do what needs to be done. And that is to get rid of the Dominion voting system and move to a hand-counted paper ballot. I have more faith and trust in you than I do in the Fulton County election system because I've seen it firsthand. I am a poll manager in Roswell, and when there's no accountability for the transferring the ballots to the county and being able to audit those votes. And so please move forward and do what you know you need to do. Have courage, integrity, and I trust in you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I invite Ms. Lucia Frazier to the podium.
That's Ms. Frazier. Next speaker.
Good evening, Lucia Frazier, 485 Hardscrabble Road, Roswell, Georgia. I want to thank you guys for allowing the committee to do all the work that they did on elections. It's going to help us in Roswell greatly too. We're going to use all that data for ourselves as well. And even though I am from Roswell, I'm here because I have a very unique perspective on all this since I've been your eyes and ears downtown in Fulton County for the past year. And I've started poll working and poll watching and just learning as much as I can. So I have a lot of firsthand data that will hopefully help you support Milton running your own municipal elections. So I'll just go through a list of things here that I've witnessed. The voter rolls are full of duplicates. We have them. We've been submitting those to Fulton County, and they have accepted all of them. So they have accepted this issue. And they charge you based on the number of registrations on there. So your cost will definitely go down because you're going to clean up your rolls and you're not going to have to pay for those extra people. And then early voting, there's a lack of shift work, making people work all 19 days and the same people. And then most of their pay becomes overtime. So you won't have that. You'll have shifts. Nobody will get paid overtime. You'll save a ton of money. There's no interdepartmental communication in Fulton County. I witnessed this when I attended my trainings. They have misused their equipment because they were not communicating how to take care of it. So a lot of equipment was coming back not usable, and that's more money spent on new equipment. And that equipment is very expensive to begin with. There's been a blatant disregard to Georgia law. They don't allow, they're still locking out public observers. So you're supposed to be unlocked before 7 a.m. when you're setting up and even after when you close. So they have been caught on that multiple times. Using expensive equipment, and it has been shown to misread ballots. So I think it's wonderful that the committee did a study with the paper ballots. I think that will be much more secure and easier with less training. And there is an example in DeKalb County in May that the result did change after a hand recount. So something up with that scanner Don't know what it was, but it did not scan them correctly. Fulton was already overcharging the cities because of all the reasons I just listed. Just, I think a few weeks ago, they announced that they're doubling what they're going to charge per voter in this coming up year. So in the presentation you watched from the committee, the savings that they announced are even more now. So that's great news. And if anybody is concerned about wait time, the committee already announced that they're going to still do the 19 days of early voting. There should be no issue there. And if you're concerned about security, the committee has already presented on all that. And if you are concerned about security, please come downtown to Fulton County and make public comment. Right now, the person who's handling all our ballots is not even a citizen of the US, and he basically handles every vote goes through his hands. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
I'd like to invite Mr. Jason Frazier to the podium, please.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jason Frazier. I live at 485 Hardscrabble Road, Roswell, Georgia. I come here to first off thank you guys for doing all of the work to try to run your own elections, and I trust that you guys will be working with Roswell so we can run our own elections. Your savings is probably pushing $200,000 now that Fulton has said that they're going to almost double your charge. Scaling that up, that means Roswell is probably going to save $500,000 or $600,000, which will be fantastic. And also, I guess I did work in the Milton Library in the runoff election as a poll tech, and I wanted to give you guys just a little bit of update on some of the voter roll work that I have done. I mentioned earlier, whenever I came here and spoke, that I had submitted about 17,000 voter challenges. People registered 2, 3, 4, as many as 11 times. So whenever you look at your savings or the cost that Fulton is charging you at possibly around $11 per person, that could be 11 times 11 if the same guy's registered 11 times. I turned in those challenges earlier this year, and you would have thought Fulton County might have looked up from their desk and said, maybe we need to change something. They clearly didn't change anything, as I found and turned in another 7,000 duplicate registrations just last week. These are people registered 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. Some of them are Milton residents that, again, instead of being charged $11, $12 a person, you're being charged $22 a person because they're registered twice. And being registered twice also creates a lot of other problems. If they register you twice, a lot of times it might be because you've got Robert Smith and Bob Smith or some sort of other typo. Well, when that person moves, their relocation only moves Bob Smith, not Robert Smith. So you get one left behind. That one left behind might stay on your rolls for 8 or 10 years. God knows how long it'll be, unless I come along or you guys work to clean up your voter rolls, because they'll just leave these stagnant voters on your rolls. You'll pay, you'll just continue paying, because they don't charge you per voter that actually shows up at the polls. They charge you per voter on the rolls. Fulton County has no incentive to clean their rolls. They're not doing it. Last couple of days, I loaded up all of the PO boxes in Fulton County and found around a little over 600 people still registered at PO boxes. So some people just right off the cuff might not see an issue with that, but it might be somebody that lives in Alpharetta that has a PO box in Milton, thus they're voting in Milton. Or they have a business in Milton, but they live in Roswell. They're still voting in Milton if that's the case. These municipal elections are very tight races. You don't want people outside of the city to be voting in the city. Not to mention, you don't want to be paying for that person to be on your rolls. Fulton's not looking at these things. I guarantee it, or I wouldn't have found now almost 25,000 issues in the Fulton rolls. And that's just a drop in the bucket. I'm not finding a lot of the people, or I haven't even started working on the people that say moved out of state or moved to another county, or sometimes it's difficult to find them if they have 2 addresses within Fulton. They moved from here to somewhere else, that one stays on the rolls. So again, a lot of lingering people on the rolls that you guys are paying for, that we're all paying for as Fulton residents. So I hope that you guys will look at your rolls. You're a small town. If maybe somebody lives in a large neighborhood, get an HOA list, see who's there. Maybe somebody sold their house 5 years ago, they're still on the rolls. You guys can look at some of these things. And if you have questions, I've spent way too many hours looking at these. I can probably help you on the learning curve if you want to start looking into that. So anyway, thanks again for all you're doing, and I trust that you'll be helping Roswell do the same. So thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I'd like to invite Mr. Matt Rowenzak to the podium.
Mr. Matt
Rowenzak.
Rowenzak.
All right, good evening, Mayor, City Council, 3001 Vickery Trace, Roswell. And I'd take offense to the earlier comment from being from Roswell because a lot of residents in Fulton County, and this isn't just North Fulton, are really tired of getting ripped off by Fulton County. So I'm going to go through some facts versus just hearsay. So a couple of weeks ago, I shared with you all the financial audit that Fulton County's own internal auditor did last year. The results came out last year. I hope you actually read it or at least skimmed it because it's shocking. And again, I'll just give one example. They had no standard operating procedures. I'll repeat that. They had no standard operating procedures. How do you run a city, a county, a business? How do you do anything with no procedure? Their budget for this year, right? We had essentially 4 elections, is going to probably come in over $40 million. The budget for 2023, and the only election that Fulton County is responsible for is one special election, is going to be between $15 and $20 million. So if you actually prorate that and make it an apples to apples comparison to this year, they're actually asking for more money. And they're setting the stage so that in 24, that the budget maybe is going to be $50 or more million. And again, if you scale that across the state, if other counties were to use the Fulton model, we're talking about $500 million in 1 year or more. I think that makes financial sense for Milton to run its own elections. I'll give you another example. Cobb County, which is about 70 to 75% of Fulton, their budget this year was $5 million. So Fulton next year is proposing to spend $15 to $20 million on one special election when this year Cobb spent between 5 and 6. And it's been mentioned a couple times already, but I believe the committee was given a prorated rate of between $16, $19, or $6.19 and $6.30, and I feel like I have to actually say the pennies because of a previous comment. And actually 2 weeks ago, I made the comment, the work that the committee did was fantastic, but I didn't even trust the numbers that Fulton gave them because it could change on a dime. And literally last Monday, they said it would be $11.48. So if you do the math, you're almost doubling. I'm sure you all probably run the numbers, but now we're talking about over $200,000 in savings for a city the size of Milton. So there is a financial reason to do this wholeheartedly. And that's why us in Roswell are here and why we're so interested in it, because it makes sense. So unless, Milton and other cities around this county, and some already are running their elections, and many are. So this really isn't a controversial issue. It's supported by state law. It's supported by the state constitution. And it makes sense on a whole host of reasons. So anyway, unless, I'll be blunt, unless you want to keep getting ripped off by Fulton County, I know the taxpayers are tired of it, then I strongly recommend to go with the committee's recommendations and to run your own municipal election. So thank you for all the hard work that went into this.
All right, thank you. Please call them.
Marshall to the podium. This is the final comment tonight.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Kyle Marshall. I live down the street at 12737 Lacoma Trace here in Milton. I have to say that I find it a little disconcerting that there are so many residents of Roswell here concerned about our elections, but they're not at home taking care of their own. That would be much more impressive. I would like to say also that I'm in a disagreement with this move. I find it dismaying and disturbing. It appeared at every meeting I attended that the committee had made up their mind that this is what they wanted to do before they ever started investigating. There's a person on the committee that was questioned about involvement in the 2020 election and the false electoral votes that were attempted to be sent to DC. It puts the integrity of the committee in question. I think that we need to do the safe thing. We know that our elections are safe. There is no reason to do this. We need honest elections, not discounted elections. I'm for saving money, but I want to know who the people are making these decisions, and I want to know all the details. This is a huge step to make. It should have been printed in the paper in big ads. There should have been signs out that this meeting was occurring tonight, that it was going to be discussed. And I'm just begging you to please, don't rush into this. Let's let Roswell go right ahead and see how it works out for him. And thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So, all right, I will close the public hearing and have council discussion or questions. Rick?
If I could just make a couple comments. We started this, I sat on the committee. We started this, it was over a year ago. We actually started in July of 2021. And I brought it forward, said, and Paul was part of that too, let's take a look, because what had happened, when we formed the city of Milton in 2006, we chose what we wanted to handle. The state allowed us to do our own elections. We said, you know what, Fulton County is charging us what the actual cost is, so we don't need to take that on. The only reason we even consider, or I actually got concerned, was in 2021, all of a sudden our election cost for the general election, again, for a nonpartisan city council only, this has nothing to do with state, federal, county. We can't do that by law. We have nothing to do with that. This really has to do with people up here getting elected, local elections. And again, I was comfortable. I was on the initial city council. I helped when we formed the city. We stood up the city to try to take on public safety. You saw a number of people recognized tonight. So from our standpoint, it wasn't an issue until it became one. When Fulton County raised our cost in 2021 as a city by 100%. It went from 41,000 to 84,000. So over 100% increase in cost. And that's when we said, well, let's look at this. And we spent over a year. We did look at the only reason I didn't plan to say a whole lot, but I think we need to clarify so it's on the record. We looked at what the state requirements are. This is not something Milton can just come up with. We have to follow what the state mandates. That includes the type of paper. We can't actually print our own ballots. We can't go out and get paper. We have to go through an authorized state approved printer if we're going to do paper ballots. That's where we get the ballots from. They have to be controlled. We have to, I know some of the stories of lack of chain of custody, some of the things that did happen, but that's not the reason we're doing this. We're not doing this because someone's saying, oh, Milton, really, there's cheating going on in Milton municipal elections. This was about cost. And just to give you, I guess, a couple numbers, we had a 100% increase in 2021 over what our 2019 cost was. Fulton County said, and this was not even open for negotiation, they charged us $2.96 per registered voter, not active voters, that's inactive. You heard a little bit about the voter rolls. There may be some people on Milton that actually, they're on the voter rolls, they shouldn't be, but we get charged per registered voter. That was over 100% increase in cost. That's when we started looking at it, and we take it very seriously too. This wasn't something we blindly went into. As city manager had mentioned, we looked at the state laws. We looked at how we would handle, we looked at what the requirements were. There's a whole manual from the state that mandates how you have to run elections. We are subject to do that. So taking this on was not a light lift where we said, oh, let's just do it. We truly did go through and look at, well, what would the processes be? Can we do this? What would the cost be? Because if it doesn't make sense financially, and if we couldn't do it process-wise, then why even take it on? And I had actually talked to the interim director down at Fulton County. I said, okay, you're telling us you're going to raise it in 2023 if you run our municipal elections. Can you put that in perspective, what the cost is? And what she shared as well, right now it looks like it'll be $6.19 to $6.30. So we saw the cost was going up dramatically. And as one of the speakers said, just a week ago, they announced that $6.19 went up to $11.48. So we took it very seriously. We did not enter into this lightly. And to put it in perspective of what we're going to run this, the city manager will be charged with doing this by the books, doing it by the law, where it's all going to be, it's auditable. We're going to have security bags transferring. There's a whole set of protocols that we did look at. The savings, estimated savings for just a general election in Milton, doing our, in 2023, 3 council members, we'll save over $250,000 of taxpayer money if we do this ourselves. If we defer and say we want to sign up and let's have Fulton County do it, they'll charge us $11.48. What that comes out to is over $300,000 that they would be charging us to run our local election that we have maybe 4,000 people come out. We'd love to have more people. We've got 30,000 registered voters. We'd love to have all 30,000 come out. The reality is we get the highest we've ever had is 4,600 people come out to vote. So this really was about cost. We take it seriously to actually, if we take this on, if the council votes, this is a serious thing that we're taking on. We want to do it right. But the estimated savings based upon 30,100 registered voters in 2023 on our municipal election, we will save 273,000. And that's actually in the cost that we put together and the committee collectively put together. We actually looked at putting buffer in there to say, okay, there's probably going to be some contingency costs, but we looked at down to the point of printing, election booths, number of days, and we did not change what Fulton County does. We said, let's do the same advanced voting, the same number of days. And so we're not looking to change the number of days or the ability to vote. We're looking at trying to do it more efficiently and actually save us some money. That's what we as a council are charged with tonight, is to look at, do you want to do that? We've all seen the presentation. I know I'm supporting it. I did not go into this with a preconceived conclusion saying it's already, let's do this. Really, I wanted to make sure it made sense from a process and from a cost standpoint. And I'm very comfortable. We've got, there is a whole implementation. We looked at the processes. The next step, if the council votes for this, is then getting into the mode of saying, okay, let's look, we've got the state processes. Now we need to start to look at what are the steps every month that we need to do. So that would be the next step. But tonight we're really looking at, do we want to do this as a council? Are we willing to authorize and have the city actually take over running our own elections, or do we want to continue with Fulton County? That's really the choice that we have.
Thank you. Anything else? Paul?
No, Rick, well said, and you captured all the things I might have, I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I will say, I went into this with an open mind from the very beginning, and sometimes the easy things that continue to allow Fulton County to continue to do what they're doing, and that's the easy thing. But sometimes when you have to take the lead on things, you have to do the hard thing. And after discussing this with Fulton County, when it's gone from free in our first municipal election to 40,000 to 70,000 to now 120,000, and after talking to Fulton County, it's obvious they don't want to run our municipal elections, and they're going to continue to pass on the cost to us. Every mayor in Fulton County is looking at us. They want to see if we can do something successful. I have all the faith in the world in our city staff that we're going to do it. We're going to give them all the resources to make it done in a secure way, in a way to save everyone money. And this is something that is inevitable with a lot of municipalities. I was at a meeting last week with some Gwinnett County mayors, and I asked them, do y'all run your own elections? They were like, absolutely. We all do. That was Sugar Hill, Suwanee. So this is nothing new. It is just something that is inevitable. And sometimes you have to take the lead and everyone else will follow. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Paul?
Well, I do have one quick comment. That is, just, I feel fortunate that we as a council, with the leadership of our city manager as well, chose to move forward with this study. I wish Roswell and surrounding communities well in Fulton County who have not had a chance like we have to spend the last year giving this careful assessment that we have. You're facing one of two things if you're not in Milton in the future. One is significantly greater cost because Fulton County is taking serious steps to raise the numbers beyond what is acceptable. And number two, we've got the benefit of having gone through this study to ensure that we have understood the process, understood our responsibilities, and we have taken them serious and will execute as anyone would expect. I just wish those counties all the best who are going to be behind the 8 ball because they haven't had a chance to do the study in this last year to put us in the right place, be able to make a good decision this evening.
If I just add one thing, we didn't really highlight it, but in the meeting a couple weeks ago, actually it was probably over a month ago, Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections publicly put in the presentation that they want to get out of the municipal election business. They said, we are encouraging cities to take over. We no longer want to do that. Now, we didn't know that when we started this, but that tells us. And then when I look at the price doubling over what I was told a little over a month ago, and even that was over 100%, over our 100% increase, I think that the signals are there that they don't want to do it, plus the cost. I mean, and that's what we're charged with. Fiscal responsibility and what the cost is going to be. I would rather have us save over $250,000 and be able to invest that in things that we need to. We don't need to spend it. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I will open it for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-390.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Moore to approve agenda item number 22-390. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, will the city clerk? Will the city clerk please say on the next item?
Consideration of a resolution of the City of Milton extending an existing moratorium on the acceptance of applications for development permissions, plats, plans, and permits within a 22 parcel area known as the District at Mayfield. It's agenda item number 22-389. Mr. Robert Buscemi.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council,
I'm
I'll
sorry,
go
Mr.
through
Chairman.
this very quickly. You've already heard my presentation. We've already conducted the public hearing. So I think you understand what this moratorium does. The only thing I would add to it is we did talk about some language that might provide that modest exception. And if you are prepared to make a motion, or when you are prepared to make a motion, Mr. Buscemi did come and ask or speak to me. I had mentioned it was a 500 square foot aggregate building permit on the exterior. We actually need a little more than that. It's about 900 square feet. So that's what I would actually go through in my motion if you're ready for me to repeat that language, Mr. Mayor.
All right, let's give it a couple minutes, let the room clear out. And then, do we have public comment on that, Tammy?
The only ones were during the public hearing, if they needed, we were discussed, if you wanted to make another comment. It was Miss Sally Rich Cobb and Jody Jones.
Do y'all want to make
You okay?
another comment, or are y'all good? You're good? Okay.
Only other thing that I could think of is that we just got a notice just a couple of days ago about there were 3 meetings lined up in January, February, and March that may have confused people. And maybe that's why people thought this has already had already been voted on. And if that's the case, they didn't come to this meeting to voice their opinion. And I'm not quite sure if you can actually have a vote with that confusion, because it looked like it was already a done deal, before the vote was even taken, because we got this announcement of these meetings. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Okay, I'll close public comment and open it for discussion.
What is the actual end date on the moratorium? Is it June 30th?
Right. It's, right now, it's a hard stop of June 20th, 2023. But and so that's accurate. But as I mentioned, it'll obviously end when we adopt the overlay. And of course, the council always has the discretion to shut it down earlier. Yes.
When we're talking about timeline, Robin, can you
Yeah.
explain
The
maybe
timeline.
again what the timeline is and what the?
Be glad to. Shuba at the last, I think it was the work session, was prepared to go through step by step. So I'm here to let you know what our process and our thought process was for that date. So after the new year, we're going to have our first public workshop on January 19th, where the objective is to have concept plan alternatives. The second public workshop is on February 9th, revise the concept plan. March 2nd, which is a third public workshop, finalize the concept plan. March 20th, staff and the consultant would like to bring back to you a draft final plan presentation on March 20th. So this is a zoning edit to the zoning ordinance. So that requires full public hearings and processes that are baked into our ordinance. So we're proposing the community zoning information meeting to be March 28th, the design review board, April 11th, planning commission, April 26th, and there would be a first read on May 1st, and then the final decision to you all on May 15th. So as Mr. Gerard said, obviously, if something gets approved on the 15th of May, then it ends. So that is our proposed timeline. Obviously, there could be maybe a little bit of delay. That's why we ask it to go to June 20th, just in case there's a week or two additional need. So.
No, the last thing we want to do is continue holding up the people's property. So
Right.
Sooner the better for sure. And I think as it progresses by March 20th, we're going to have a pretty good idea of what we're going to be looking at.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Rick?
Yeah, I would just kind of implore if this passes that we actually work as quickly as we can, because we've already had a moratorium for a period of time and understand things went on during that period. But for the landowners that are impacted, I would just say anything we can do to actually speed up the process and make sure we're engaging them. I think that's important.
This is pretty much the fastest we can go, and to be able to provide a very a good work product and something that is going to be viable for the long term. So I believe we hear you very clearly, staff has, and this is what we've proposed for the timeline. So
Okay. I know, I don't know if we're ready for a motion or not yet, but when we do open it for a motion, I would like Ken to maybe read that amendment, because the property owner is really in keeping with the character of the area, in keeping with exactly, I think, what we're kind of looking at. And I think that would be very beneficial for him to continue to move forward with his business.
And if I could just highlight a part of the moratorium where it talks about building permits, but it already excludes interior and trade permits. So it's not like it's a huge jump, but just want to highlight that part. It's not excluding landowners doing interior work, doing new HVAC, doing whatever they need for maintenance, as well as any kind of interior permits. That's already being permitted. So just wanted to clarify that point as well.
And just because I think I heard some concern too about individuals doing existing work, no moratorium is going to block permits that have already issued. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. We do have some due process constraints we're under. If you're already doing your work, we're not stopping you when this moratorium started.
Ken, I just want to clarify. So the amendment that you're talking about this evening with this additional square footage of improvement area, is that an amendment that we're allowing that would be available to anybody within the moratorium area? But we know that there's one in particular that has a request, but that same consideration is available to anybody else as well.
It has to be that way. Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item 22-389 with the suggested amendment by city attorney. And Ken, if you want to read that into the
Right.
record.
So this would be an addition of paragraph 4 to what is in your packet. The community development director is hereby provided discretion to issue exterior building permits so long as the following are met. Number one, the permit shall not result in exterior improvements of greater than 900 square feet in the aggregate. And number two, that in the discretion of the director, the proposed improvement is not inconsistent with the overall objectives of the proposed overlay.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 22-389 with city attorney's amendments to the motion. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, that next item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to AK Butchers LLC DBA New York Butcher Shop and Wine Bar. It's located at 12635 Crabapple Road, Suite 120 in Milton. It's agenda item number 22388. Our finance director, Ms. Karen Ellis.
This item was presented earlier. If you have any additional questions, I'll be glad to answer for you.
Okay. Any public comment on this?
There are none, sir.
Okay, we'll close that. Any discussion, questions? Okay, I'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-385.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Morg to approve agenda item number 22-385. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Milton Brewing LLC, doing business as Six Bridges Brewing and Craft Spirits, located at 1850 Heritage Walk in Milton. Agenda item number 22386. Karen Ellis.
This item was also presented a little while ago, well, maybe a little longer than a little while ago. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any public comment?
No, there are none, sir.
Okay, I'll open it for a motion.
Mayor, make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-386.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve agenda item number 22-386. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to IBI Investments, Inc., doing business as Aberdeen Steakhouse at 3000 Heritage Walk, Suite 101 in Milton. Agenda item number 22387. Ms. Karen Ellis.
If you have any questions on this one as well, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Open it for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-387.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morg and a second from Councilmember Moore to approve agenda item number 22-387. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
That item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Milton YP LLC, doing business as Your Pie Milton at 2955 Bethany Bend, Suite 309, Milton. It's agenda item number 22388. Ms. Karen Ellis.
And this is our last one of the evening. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, any public comment on this?
There are none, sir.
Okay, open it for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve agenda item number 22-388.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Moore to approve agenda item number 22-388. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Approval of a professional services agreement and addendum between the City of Milton and Arnett Muldrow and Associates to provide municipal branding, placemaking, and marketing strategic services. Agenda item number 22391. Our Community Development Director, Mr. Robert Semi, and our Economic Engagement Manager, Ms. Anita Jupin.
Once again, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to be turning this over to Anita. This is going to be a presentation, short presentation. It's only a couple slides on our placemaking and branding to show you the progress we're making.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, we're working on the city's branding study as guided by our 2040 comprehensive plan. The branding study is really the bedrock for a multitude of other projects that we have outlined in the comprehensive and strategic plans. Our goal and objective here is to celebrate the uniqueness of Milton through the promotion of its rural and equestrian heritage by creating a brand to establish a sense of place throughout the community. CPAC has identified issues and opportunities for this initiative that are outlined here. The issues we plan to address are to define the city's brand in a clear, consistent manner, identify brands unique to Milton character areas, establish consistent signage throughout the city, and showcase the amenities of Milton to visitors and residents. Through this study, we'll have the opportunity to honor each character area and create a comprehensive public art program. We will work closely with our consultant to ensure that these strategies align with the visions and goals of our comprehensive plan. We really want to achieve a brand that stands apart in a way that Milton already does. In 15 years, Milton has emerged as a city with unique character areas that should all be celebrated in their own special way while still being a part of the overall Milton brand. Milton consistently ranks high on survey results when it comes to quality of life, safety, and strong community pride. We already have something unique here, and through this effort, we will identify the best ways to showcase that. So back in the fall, we issued an RFP, and we received a great response. We were very intentional when we outlined the scope of work that we're seeking a firm with extensive experience in strategic branding, brand extension, and placemaking, that we will work hand in hand with staff so that these key elements remain in-house. The agency that we've selected demonstrates the ability to assist us as we conduct all the necessary research, solicit input from city leaders, elected officials, staff, and the community to really understand what makes Milton unique and to develop a branding strategy that aligns with Milton's core values. Again, we do not plan to outsource this to our agency, but rather work in lockstep to ensure that our communications are clear, consistent, and successful. We'll work to devise effective marketing tools to convey a positive, consistent, unique brand for the city of Milton, for current and future potential residents, for visitors, for businesses as well, and we will develop workable strategies that highlight Milton's rural and equestrian heritage. We'll create branding elements in line with the city's goals to identify wayfinding strategy and produce a detailed plan with forward-thinking strategies. And we will bring these projects before you every step of the way so that we can ensure that Milton's vision is represented and celebrated throughout the entire process. So with your approval of the contract tonight, our next steps will be to meet with our consultant to discuss the project and develop a very detailed timeline for these deliverables, and our specific approach that we will take on our path to implementation. That will consist of information gathering, public engagement opportunities, and eventually leading to the development and presentation of brand concepts for final approval. That's all I have for you on this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Anita?
No, when you give a great presentation, there aren't a lot of questions. Nice job.
Okay. Jan?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for doing this. I think it's something that's really needed. We've done a great job in the Crabapple area, but there's a lot of other areas of Milton that could use the same type of branding. And I think taking a deep dive into this is going to be very helpful, enhance the overall image of Milton throughout the city. So thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, Paul?
Yeah, actually, if I could build on something that Jan just said, and that is that I know this is not necessarily part of the scope, but ask that you think about this. When we look at the kinds of events that we're promoting as a city, or even something right now with the holiday kinds of things that are going on, we of course focus on Crabapple because that's our kind of the heart of Milton at this point. But even when we're looking at decorations and some of the ways that we're celebrating around town, I'd ask that we take a hard look at expanding. I know it's a budget concern and we have to pay attention to that as well. But I just ask that we look to expand some of our, not just holiday celebration, but celebration throughout Milton as well.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. I think through this effort, we really want to make sure that wherever you are in Milton, that you know that you're in Milton, that it's consistent and that it's cohesive. And I think that comes with the decor, the signage, the events, all of that, so that you really know that it's all under one brand.
Thanks, Anita. That was
Great job, Anita. Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Any public comment?
There are none, sir.
Okay, we'll open it for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 22-391.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore, a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve agenda item number 22-391. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Will the city clerk please say on the next item?
Mayor, that item is consideration of a roundabout maintenance agreement between the City of Milton and Ashford Gardeners, Inc. for adoption of the Freemanville Road at Providence Road Roundabout. Agenda item number 22-392. Our Public Works Director, Ms. Sarah Leaders.
Okay, this is a consideration of our very first Adopt a Roundabout agreement. So I'll just run through it quickly and go over the components of this program. So first, we'll hit on the alignment with the strategic plan, what the program is, this proposed agreement, our proposed method of approvals for these. We hope to have more of these coming up in the future. So how this is going to work going forward, and then answer any questions. So one of the strategic plan objectives is to explore the creation of this Adopt a Roundabout program. And back in April, I came before you to talk about the components of the program, kind of what the framework would look like, and some of the major points of feedback were first finding a adoptee that is qualified to plant and maintain within the roundabouts. It's a little different than the Adopt a Road. It does take certain qualifications. We want to get a defined scope and plan for what materials would be taken out and what would be put in. There's an opportunity for hardscape in the future too. So really laying out what that looks like from the group that wants to adopt the roundabout. Then the terms and conditions would be developed through a adoption agreement that legal would help us draft. And then the approvals, Public Works would review the plant material and the maintenance plan, and then we would bring the agreement before you all for approval. So in general, the program is for improved beautification of our roundabout landscaping, where again, we'd have those qualified professionals to provide changing out some of the landscape or the hardscape at the center islands. And the city would continue to provide a base investment during construction in the roundabouts. We'd right now continue our routine maintenance and mowing of those, and then we would provide signage for as part of the adoption of the roundabouts. So this particular proposed agreement, we're starting at Freemanville, Providence. It had a very good base establishment of materials, but there's been a few plant choices that just haven't thrived at that location. So this is the scope of what we're looking to do under this agreement, is to remove the serviceberry trees, which are kind of on all four approaches to the roundabout, and replace them with a forest pansy redbud. So again, those the serviceberries actually haven't taken very well and are in poor condition. So we'd get a nice redbud that this is the fall foliage that's shown on it. So that's the component in the center. And then on two of the approaches, we're proposing some changes to the muley grass has gotten on the approach near the Union has gotten taller than we'd anticipated. It creates a little bit of a difficulty seeing to the roundabout. So we'd taper that back and relocate those over to the other leg of Providence, and then come in with a lower ground cover in kind of these green areas. So we're keeping that visibility little cleaner from the approaches. And then we had some switch grasses over on the eastern Providence leg that didn't take as well. So coming in with the, actually moving some of the muley grasses from the Union leg of Providence over. And the maintenance would be pretty minimal with these changes. So it would just be any pruning or replacement if these don't establish. So the agreement is set up with a 2-year term with 3 additional renewals. The agreement includes standard terms and conditions that are called the covenants of the company and performance standards. That's the legal terms included in the agreement. Like I mentioned, Public Works would oversee the program. We've reviewed the plans, and we would, if this agreement's approved, issue a right-of-way permit. And then we'd also produce the sign that you see on the slide here. And we plan to attach, that's going to be a smaller, lower mounted sign on hopefully some wooden post rather than a metal steel post. So it'll blend more with the landscape around it. So the role as we currently have set up is for council to approve these agreements as we get these for different roundabouts. So in summary, we're going to improve the beautification of our roundabouts at no cost to the city, well, with the exception of the small cost of the signage. And our qualified contractor will install and maintain that landscape. So we ask for your consideration of the agreement tonight.
Any questions for Sarah? No? Good stuff. Paul?
Sarah, this is the first one that we're experiencing, which I think is terrific. I've been a proponent for a long time of engaging the community in one way or another to do this, so almost like an Adopt the Road program. I'm delighted that this first endeavor is with a certified landscape professional group. Do you see that kind of caliber continuing to have interest, or is this a one of a kind that we hope to expand in other ways?
I think there's an opportunity for some similar qualified groups, whether it's maybe a nearby HOA that has a certain landscaper that maintains their frontage and they want to take on the roundabout to keep that look. I think there's opportunities like that. There's the Milton businesses or just outside the city that provide landscaping services. So I think there's a pool out there of some different entities we can get.
This is a great first step. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. I know you don't want me designing the roundabouts. So just good stuff. All right. I'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve agenda item number 22-392.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Moore to approve agenda item number 22-392. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. Already council reports. Well, I was going through my calendar, looking at what my schedule is like tomorrow, and I saw it was someone's birthday. So happy birthday, Paul. Early birthday, Paul.
Happy birthday.
And, appreciate
29.
And holding.
It's always great to have a council meeting on the week of Christmas. And as you know, I have my reports that are prepared for me every week to read. And this is what I get sometimes. I get like little cartoon characters from Miss Tammy. So I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. With that, is there anything else? Jan?
Yeah, I wanted to just say thank you to Steve and to Bob and Anita, Community Development, Public Works, Park and Rec. They spent 2 hours of their time today talking about Route 9 and Deerfield area and what we as council can do to help them and what they're doing to develop that area. To me, it's a really important area for Milton. I mean, I think it's there's a lot there from a tax base opportunity, but there's also a look and feel that needs to come about. It just doesn't feel or look like Milton at the present time, but they've got a lot of great things going on. But to me, it's the working together that's great to see. And I really appreciate it. I know it took a lot of time to put all that information together, but hopefully by working together, we can really help move this forward. And I know everybody up here will do all they can to help all your efforts. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I will echo those as well.
And I'll say the same thing, because to me, it's great to actually see the focus where we're going to make an investment. And that area, I can tell you, for people that, so those of us who've lived over there, we feel kind of like we've been neglected in the past, or maybe there's not been as much focus. And we support what we do in the city, but I think it's great that you actually are taking the time. And thank you for taking, Steve, arranging everybody to actually spend time with us and take us through the plans. I'm excited. I mean, the past, some of the holiday events that we had, I look back at with a lot of pride at where we started in 2006, December of 2006, and where we are right now, 15 years later, going on 16 years. I could have never imagined we'd have what we have here as a city when we decided to take this over from Fulton County. So I thank you guys for being progressive and taking a look at what we can do as we move forward.
All right. With that, Paul?
Just one more quick one. I had the good fortune with you of attending the newest fire truck push-in ceremony earlier this week, and it was once again spectacular. I think it's outstanding that we as a city recognize that longstanding tradition of the fire department back, going back to the days when those fire apparatus were pushed by manpower into the station rather than backing up with horses. It's a tremendous celebration, and there's such great pride you see on the faces of our firemen and our first responders when we go to those kinds of ceremonies, and to have a chance to celebrate that with them is just nothing short of spectacular. This particular piece of apparatus is also just absolutely amazing. This new Quint truck, I think, is named as such because it performs 5 duties of what would have been 5 other vehicles. The efficiencies that are coming under the leadership of Chief Bonamous are just remarkable. He's a tremendous advocate for what Milton has always been, had the vision for, and he had big shoes to fill, and those shoes vacated by Chief Edgar. But boy, what a tremendous job Chief is doing, and just look forward to celebrating more like this, which is another great event this week when we brought that new truck into service.
And I would just say in 2007, when we got our first Quint, council climbed up the ladder. We actually had to climb up. Now you've got the bucket that you sit in. And I know a number of us actually took the ride.
Never again.
Jan would like to do it again. Stacy, I know, really enjoyed the ride up there too. But I echo what Paul said. I mean, I think most of us were there. It was great to see community come out too.
Yeah.
And that is a great addition to the Highway 9 area too, with our public safety complex.
Thanks. With that, we'll have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That's it.
Have a great Christmas,
See y'all.
everyone.